Marketing is my discipline, and I've always held the belief that if you're going to do it, then do it well. But that throws up the question, how to do it well, especially digital marketing, which seems to attract a growing number of dubious companies offering even more dubious services. But I know here at BizVision that digital marketing works. After all, you are watching this Meet the Leader episode. So I wanted to seek out a company that does it well and is transparent about it. And I found one. Come with me to Bristol and meet the CEO and chairman of UpUGo. Welcome, Luke Sartain. Welcome, Luke.
Thank you, Malcolm.
Nice to see you. So give me a quick overview. I love this name, by the way, UpUGo. Give me a quick overview of UpUGo and the services you offer.
Well, I'm glad you pronounced it correctly, because I've heard all manner of ways that people pronounce the name over the years. So UpUGo is essentially a search engine marketing agency. However, as search engine optimization has evolved, obviously it touches on multiple marketing disciplines now. So we've evolved our services, and now we have many touch points across the digital world of marketing.
Excellent, yeah. So what was the spark? There's always a spark, isn't there, that caused you to form UpUGo. Where did you see the gap and the opportunity?
I was living in a shared house in Bristol, and very Harry Potter-esque. I was living underneath a staircase with a boiler above my bed. And I was in a sales job working for a marketing agency which just worked with accountants. And I knew how to build websites, and in my spare time I was donating websites to charity and building a website for the Bath Rugby charity, who do really great work. And as a reward for building the website for the Bath Rugby charity, the directors invited me to a box to watch a game. And it was in that box that I met the owner of a financial advisory firm, who turned around and said, "Look, I love what you did with the website. Do you do something called SEO?" And instantly I just said yes. And then very quickly went away to find out how we can go and offer this service. So we shook hands on, I think it was £500 per month at the time. And I went away and I had my first customer. So I was managing that between that and selling digital services to accountants. And it's obviously a very grey area out there when it comes to search engine optimization and the legitimacy of the businesses who offer it. And I wanted to do things differently and do things more personal, more accountable, doing things the right way, hopefully.
Yes, yeah. And that's what I gained so much from the time I spent looking on your website and looking around before we had this opportunity to talk. I also did something on your website called your Go Rank. So could you tell people about it, what it does, and how does it do it?
Yeah, so we wanted to make aspects of search engine optimization more transparent for businesses. And one of the key areas which businesses have a challenge with is understanding where their money is going into SEO and what tasks are being completed. Because unless you know different coding languages and you know different content management systems and how websites operate, sometimes SEO isn't always visible. So this tool aims to bridge that gap and allow businesses to add their website, and it will tell them a list of all of the problems that do not comply with Google quality guidelines. These guidelines we've worked on with Google in their HQ in London, with some Google engineers who worked on something called Lighthouse. That gives us a really clear picture of the problems that a website faces, and it's no longer just a random person saying, "Oh, this doesn't work with your website." These are the rules. And once we have a list of those rules, we then match that to 5 years of data of how long these tasks take to be completed, and therefore how much typically each task takes to be resolved. We put that into an algorithm, and then our software will prioritize the best use of budget spend based on its effectiveness and its ability ultimately increase visibility online.
Wow. Each month, I personally get over, I'm going to say 100 emails. I haven't counted them. There could be many more than that, offering me SEO services. Mostly, I say, from dubious firms. You call it grey, I call it black. You know, my delete, my delete button is getting worn down with these people. How does UpUGo stand out from these, let me say, lesser quality firms?
I think it's down to that transparency factor. We have a really great mix of customers. So we work with high street brands like Hotel Chocolat, WH Smith, but we also have customers who are spending, 50 to 75 pounds a month, who have a very small shop on the high street, who suddenly want to get visible. Um, we're certainly not in the business to turn away anybody who wants to become more visible online, because ultimately everything is down to how long it takes to complete a task and its ability to have an effect on the business that we're working against. So, it's great. I always call it this pyramid of customers, and it's that pyramid of customers which allows us to have the broad range of expertise that we have. So at the top of the pyramid, we have these big high street brands. In the middle of the pyramid, we have our SMBs, which we have hundreds, and then at the bottom of the pyramid, we have all of our resale. So we actually complete the SEO for a number of well-known brands, from which I won't be able to mention.
No.
But through that partnerships, we work with thousands of different websites. And once you have that volume of data, it's very easy to make the correct decisions when it comes to where you're going to focus your energy on increasing visibility.
Yeah, I quite agree, and knowing the data. But I also pick up on a word that you used there, visibility. And I would suggest to people that's one thing that they need to do post-pandemic. People forget about you very quickly. It's not absence makes the heart grow fonder. It's out of sight, out of mind, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. As a person who has run workshops on TripAdvisor for years for the hospitality sector, I totally understand reputation management, or RM, a service that you offer. But I suspect not enough businesses have yet embedded reputation management in their communication or marketing planning. What do you say to these people? Why today is RM important to all businesses?
So not only is reputation management its own discipline and almost its entire own industry, as I mentioned earlier, search engine optimization wraps around many different marketing disciplines. So Google's algorithm, especially locally, is heavily driven by reviews and reputation, whether that be on TripAdvisor or whether that be with Yelp, or with Google's own native review platform. If you have a higher volume of reviews from legitimate aged users or customers within, let's say, Google and its own review platform, then your website will naturally be weighted more authoritative than others. And if in those reviews, those people are within the jurisdiction and the area from which you operate as a business, so they're not just random Google accounts in India that you paid £5 to get somebody to post a review, and you're mentioning certain keywords and synonyms and buzzwords relating to both brand and industry, that triggers the algorithm to really enhance that visibility. And that's something that every business can do without the need of an SEO agency, which is the most simple thing in business fundamentally, which is engaging with your own customers, getting feedback and then taking that feedback and enhancing your own offering.
Yeah. I quite agree with you. I mean, when I was doing TripAdvisor, particularly for so many hotels, restaurants, and that, many would say, "Oh, I refuse to go there." Tell them, death, taxes, and TripAdvisors you can't avoid, can you?
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. I would add Google algorithm updates to that as well.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Look, many people think that SEO is a dark art, and that Google is constantly changing its algorithms to knock them down in ranking, so it can sell more pay-per-click. Do you think it is a dark art, or is it becoming a science?
It's certainly a science, and that's very much where we plan to take it, both with the software and the agency, which is understanding cause and effect. there are hundreds of rules in Google's algorithm. 33% roughly is influenced by artificial intelligence and something called rank brain, which is part of Google's ranking algorithm. Even Google hires SEOs because if you have artificial intelligence influencing anything, ultimately human beings naturally lose control and ability and oversight on a subject quite quickly. So I would certainly say it's a science. I would certainly say that over the coming years, we'll see a change in the landscape, particularly in Europe, when it comes to SEO and Google in terms of how we see search results, with anti-competition laws in Europe going unfavorably against Google. We'll likely see rival search engines have ads within Google search results. We will likely see a reduction in the volume of ads at the top of Google, again, like the olden days when there's only 2 ads at the top rather than 4. And we'll probably see those ads dispersed against numerous pages and within the actual pages themselves. And the aim of UpUGo and Go Rank was originally, can we build something that we can make attractive to sell to Alphabet and Google at the end of that road, i.e. commoditize an area from which does have this tainted view, but make it legitimate. So that was a big part of, once again, working with Google engineers on the Lighthouse project, which is, let's get a list of all of the problems which Google is willing to tell you that you have with your website, and then find a resolution or a way to fix those. And eventually, we hope that 90% up to 100% of these technical SEO tasks will be fully automated, and that will allow us as marketeers to work on more tangible and interesting parts of SEO, such as reputation management or digital PR, which are far more interesting than going through 1,000 images and compressing them and updating alt text and changing file names. All of these things can be automated. The motivation of people in the industry is obviously naturally to protect themselves and to continue doing it manually. But we hope to drive that forward.
I can see so much potential where you're going, particularly as the UK pushes more to export, and out there's more than Google across the world, isn't there?
Absolutely. If we look at Baidu and Yandex, we've recently taken on customers in Korea, in Australia, across Dubai, in the States, in Canada. So it's a landscape which is increasing, and post-COVID, as soon as COVID happened, demand for SEO increased 4 times, and it was already on a very fast upward curve anyway. And recently, Google and Microsoft said that this is the #1 marketing discipline for the next 10 years.
Wow!
So there's certainly not going to be any lack of interest in the services.
Yeah. Is organic SEO still effective? Organic being the free, should we say, or do you also need pay-per-click in your mix if you're to be successful with SEO?
Well, we've actually just launched another business called Lasso as well, and that was off the back of seeing the opportunity relating to lead generation as a core business. So many of our customers now will run a split. So we'll be running their PPC for them, which, yes, naturally fits hand in hand with SEO, because SEO is all about getting a better user experience for the end customer, whether that's creating compelling content, having really good quality videos which engage your audience, like your videos, Malcolm, or whether it's compliance, so making sure our website is fast and secure. All of these things affect the cost per click when it comes to PPC, the level of engagement, the likelihood of getting a conversion as well. So yeah, absolutely. Having a broad mix of different channels is by far the most effective way.
Excellent, thank you. Look, it's crystal ball time. I know digital marketing is constantly evolving, constantly changing at a breakneck speed, but look into your crystal ball, please, and tell us where you think search will be in, say, 5 or 10 years' time. How will you be ahead of the curve for your customers at UpUGo?
So I would probably say the huge investment in software. I don't think many other businesses who focus on SEO, particularly in the UK, have invested so much resource and money into trying to solve these monotonous problems which are associated with SEO. We've even been in contact with the Human Rights Committee regarding how we use artificial intelligence to label images correctly, which not only solves an SEO issue, but also an accessibility issue to millions of people who rely on alt text to understand what is being displayed on a computer screen, both from the elderly community, but also those who have general lack of vision. So there's a huge need for the advancement of artificial intelligence. We're also exploring things like OpenAI and the ability to generate text on product pages at scale. So I would imagine in 5 to 10 years, then certainly if we have our way, 90%, if not 100% of technical SEO tasks will be fully automated. And as a business, we could then focus on instilling brand or SEO guidelines within an organization to ensure that all of their marketing that they are putting their effort into is naturally optimized from day one. And eventually, you may well see the extinction of SEO as a individual discipline, but more hopefully it will be encompassed into all aspects of marketing. As Google rightfully said recently, there's no such thing as marketing now. Everything is digital marketing. You can do leaflet distribution or billboards, but everything has digital data which we can use to enhance that experience. So yeah, we'll see a lot more competition, and naturally we'll still have this probably 80% of SEO companies who are doing things 10 years old and are not doing things effectively, and are doing things that actually risk the visibility of a business or website by doing them wrong. And that can never be overlooked.
Yeah, I applaud you and your investors in this continuous investment, because it's exciting to see a UK company so far ahead of the field, isn't it? Now, we have many devices in our homes now connected by Wi-Fi, and I guess more will happen, though I don't know why I want my fridge connected to the internet, apart from to keep the wine levels right, of course, but I guess it's part of progress. But I do get concerned about the vulnerability of my data. Can you see new barriers for SEO in this area?
I think when it comes to data, it's a double-edged sword, and I often say to people, if you were being targeted all day by adverts which were not relevant for you, you would find that a much more frustrating experience than what you experience now from all of the social media networks and your emails and your messages ultimately feeding into an algorithm which determines what is interesting to you. Adverts aren't going away is the reality. I think as long as data is being used to make our lives more useful or more interesting, then it's fine. There's obviously a grey area, and that grey area / black area certainly is how we see China and how we see Hong Kong and how data is being used in those environments, which is a slippery slope. And obviously how we see Cambridge Analytica and companies like that misusing data for political purposes.
Yeah, it's really been quite interesting how everybody in the streets now starting to respond to data on there. Well, I'm not going to the pub on Saturday because they want me a name.
Yeah, they already knew your name because you signed into their Wi-Fi.
Yes, yeah. No, you offer a great selection of services. As a small business, how do I know which will be the most effective and most economic for me to use?
I think that's a really interesting question, and for the first couple of years, I would be at the mercy of the business saying what they wanted, and now we actually we tend to consult first and say, look, this is going to deliver the fastest ROI, because we've worked in so many different verticals and within so many different organizations. We could see copycat businesses from which we can take a model which we know has successfully worked and then roll that out in a similar company. So, these days we're very brutal, and there's sometimes too much in terms of saying, look, this is what's wrong, this is how you need to address it, and this is how we will do that. And if you don't want to work with us, then fantastic. But what we won't do is we won't work with a business who comes with to us with a list of keywords and says, I want to rank top for all of these, and I just want to spend a couple of £100 a month and do nothing myself. The hard reality is that businesses must get involved with that process. It's not something that you can just pay somebody to do and then not be involved. Especially at a SMB level, small business owners have so much ability to do so much of SEO and marketing themselves without even realizing. They're speaking to associations, they're speaking to businesses which are similar from which they can obtain links from, or they can create partnerships or create guest posting and collaborative opportunities across their websites. The main thing that they need us for is the technical expertise of ensuring that their architecture is correct and ready to then grow and become more visible.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on this one, Luke. And I do recommend, SMBs, you call SMEs, small to medium-sized businesses there, budget for the type of work that you're doing for them. Don't think it's wasted money. It isn't. It's very effective. It used to be said that 50% of my advertising is wasted. The problem is I don't know which 50%. Is that old hat now? I know that you mentioned ROI, return on investment, in the previous question. How does UpUGo help marketers measure their marketing ROI?
I think the 50% which is wasted is the 50% that is sold by salespeople. And I say that because as a business, we've moved away from having any salespeople now. So whenever somebody engages with us, they're speaking to somebody who technically knows what they're talking about, which is really important. So in terms of measuring ROI, we have the ability to not only track the visibility of a phrase or a keyword, but really we want people to move away from tracking the performance of digital marketing by where do I rank for butchers in Bristol? Because that's not always the phrase that people are buying at, and intent
long
is
tail.
Hugely important. Yeah, absolutely. Typically, people search 3 or 4 times to find precisely what they're looking for, and the sheep will put all of their budget into pursuing the shortest phrase, whereas in reality, people are buying at a phrase 3 or 4 searches down the line, and more than 30% of all searches that go into Google every day have never been searched for before. So, and that's a huge database of billions of searches from which, never been searched for before. So when people want keywords targeted, that's not always the right thing to do. You have to build out the authority of the website and then track conversions as they come through from each individual channel. So ensuring that you have a good goal performance mechanism is really important. And the other thing that we don't do is we don't ask businesses what their budget is, because the reality is that a budget is a really bad way to handle marketing spend, because the reality is if you spend £100 delivering 4 leads and your conversion rate is 1 in 4 and your product value is X amount of money, then it doesn't really matter what the budget is, providing that the output is positive. So providing that you are selling off the back end of anything that you're putting into marketing, then that's what your budget should be.
I try to advise people, cost in your marketing. Don't just put it into a cost of sales. Far too many people come to me and say, "Oh, what's the average spend of, should we say, in marketing of an attraction or a hotel or something like that?" Go the other way, like you're suggesting. Look, this is called the Meet the Leader Show, so I want to plumb some depths on your leadership and team, things like that. You have a team of 15 in the UK and 105 in the Philippines. How's your remote leadership skills? Has it changed or evolved in any way in recent years? Have you got any top tips to pass on?
So yeah, absolutely. It's one of those really important and probably the most important part of how UpUGo was founded and grew so quickly was the team in the Philippines, and learning quickly how to manage and grow that team. And ultimately now we've actually ended up employing another 5 individuals in the UK just in the last week to keep up with demand post-COVID. And the Philippines continues to grow also. So in the Philippines, typically the salaries are obviously significantly less, which means that as a business, you can have more bums on seats doing work and ultimately delivering more work for your customers. The Philippines as a country is closely aligned with the United States in terms of, it's an English first country in terms of language. Their skill sets are very, very good. Their internet speed is probably faster than some areas, especially in rural UK. And treating that team with dignity and respect is the thing that's most overlooked. So many people and agencies I know treat offshore staff like a commodity rather than as human beings. And we hold annual parties, Christmas parties. We invest in their internet, so we give them faster internet. We invest in their computers and their livelihoods, and we in return get a huge amount of loyalty and hard work at the back end of it. We have a whole hierarchy and structure over there from our own recruitment team, looking out for really, really good talent, all the way to junior admins up to senior developers. And you can get developers which have 10 years experience, which will cost a tenth the price of somebody in the UK. Now, the two both have a purpose. This isn't to replace UK jobs, but the two can complement each other really nicely. And that's always been the balance. We also, have been quite strict in the past, and I've been criticized in the past for having time tracking software against all employees. And the way that time tracking software works is a bit like Uber drivers. So all of our team members in the Philippines are self-employed. They sign contracts with us to ensure the quality of their work. And when they start work, they click a button, and ultimately the tracker starts in terms of how many hours are being worked and on what projects. And that was really, really important, not because we just wanted to spy on our staff, but to understand how long each task was taking over the last 5 years relating to SEO. Because then that trains our algorithm to understand, okay, if increasing website speed takes 1 hour, then we have to cost that accordingly. So it's the only way to effectively do it. But it also meant that we could catch abuse between staff members. So if somebody was bullying another staff member, we had evidence and proof of that. So it's had a huge amount of benefits over the years. And we use a company called Time Doctor. I spent a lot of time with the founders. They're really good guys. And if done correctly, that is by far the most efficient way to scale remote working, is have everybody through a time tracking service, have your payroll synchronized at the back end of it, make it a very seamless, quick process. And that's the other thing. Make sure that they get paid quickly and on time. Because once again, they have bills to pay, they have families, and they've become friends with me over the years. They've even taught me some Filipino words, and I'm really bad at it, but they've been really patient, and I see them as an extended part of the family.
Excellent. I love your social value elements of the leadership that you're talking about there. Very, very important in the way that we're moving forward there. In such a dynamic, constantly changing industry that you're in, you need talented people. So how do you motivate your team and keep them constantly engaged?
Yeah, I mean, that's really challenging, especially at the moment in this COVID world. We actually only recently in the last 12 months moved to an office. Before that, everybody was working remotely. And we are looking at doing EMI schemes within the business to ensure that staff members own part of the company in time.
Just explain that MI.
So it's an EMI scheme,
Oh, right,
which
sorry.
ultimately enables us to give away shares in the company to
Ah,
individual
right.
staff members,
Yeah, yeah,
so that they feel like they have some ownership of the business,
yeah,
so that we're all working towards a common goal of eventually exiting,
right.
and then people can get a return on their investment, and their investment is time
Yeah,
and loyalty into the business. So I see that as no different than a financial investment. The team members that work with me, some of them have worked with me since I was in that cupboard underneath the stairs doing marketing,
yeah.
and hopefully when we exit, those team members will be rewarded handsomely for sticking with me and being patient and believing in what we're doing. We also every week run a prize draw giveaway. So we have a virtual spin the wheel on our website in the staff area, and we do team activities every Friday. And it's actually a really good opportunity to the team members who end up listening to this after, that we're working towards the aim of doing a 4-day working week in the next couple of months. So we hope to roll that out, within the next 60 days to all staff members, and hopefully that will give team members a bit more time over the weekends to spend with family, but also to do the projects that they want to work on. The other really cool thing, especially with being in this business for so long, is that I'm getting to now invest in my team members' own ideas. So two team members have started off their own companies, from which are still working for me as they get it off the ground. And we're actually investing money and time and resources in those companies to allow them to go and create their own vision and their own concept. And hopefully that continues the innovation drive in the UK and allows more people to create companies and have the confidence to take the risks associated with launching a company.
I'm sure many of my viewers and listeners are going to be really fascinated in how you're sort of moving leadership forward into new directions. Excellent. How has COVID-19 affected the way that you've had to run your business? What changes or adoptions have you had to make?
So obviously PPE is an important one, and preparing to go back. We're getting branded face masks manufactured at the moment from one of the organisations that we work with, Nettle Studios across the UK. I'm also getting branded PPE internal equipment as well. So we don't want it to feel like a sterile hospital environment when we return. Especially as I believe the likelihood of a second wave is going to be extremely high. So businesses, must not be blowing their bounce back loans and emergency budgets on short wins. They really need to keep some cash in the bank to see through the likely second wave, which is I think inevitable. And yeah, we've invested in mental health heavily within the company. Not only ensuring that staff have access to at-home counselling, but also have free access to Headspace if they want to do some meditation at home. We try to encourage our team members to go out and exercise and to get out and about as much as they can. And once again, every single day having a conference call online where we can all see each other's faces and we all know that we're in this together. We're all in the bedrooms, we're all in home offices, we're in places from which are breaking down personal barriers. Most people only ever see people when they're all suited and booted in the office, in that work environment.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing the cuddly toys on the mantelpieces, we're seeing the family pictures in the background, and it actually creates more interactivity with our team members and learning more about them.
Yeah, I think that's great. I've done a few interviews where the child's come in and say, "Mum, can I have a biscuit?"
Yeah. My door's locked to stop my little ones running in right now.
Yes, I know Caroline from Ogadoon, you'll know them, as a big sign outside, "Mother says no entry."
Yeah.
But it's lovely because, as you quite rightly say, people are getting to know each other better, because doing it on Zoom is not easy, is it? So your vision for the business, I can see the purpose of UpUGo. But your vision, where do you want to be in 5 years' time?
That's a good question, and there's two answers to that. There's one which is a business politically correct answer, where I'd say, look, I want us to be the largest digital marketing agency in the country in terms of the volume of people that we serve. But I think in reality, in 5 years, I see UpUGo and my part of UpUGo not being active anymore. So I'm working towards me taking a full step back, realistically, in the next 6 to 12 months, and to take a full-time chair role, and appoint one of the talented team members internally to become managing director and pass that torch over. I've got 5 or 6 other projects that I'm working on quite aggressively right now, including really importantly the software. And I would like to think that exiting UpUGo in 5 years, and from day one, I had a financial target in terms of what I want to achieve with exiting the agency. And I had a really good mentor in Scott Davison, who became a really good friend, really good mentor. He was the founder of Voucher Cloud, and also Tradeit, and has years of really good business experience. And we worked together to come up with a goal in terms of what's a life-changing sum of money, but also would allow you to invest in things and create more things while supporting your family as well. So we set this financial target in place, from which I'd like to think I can achieve within the next 5 years, and then invest a lot of that into more ventures and more businesses driving forward.
Yeah, it's exciting, from Harry Potter under the stairs to the penthouse.
Yeah. It's that is relatively true. I did buy our second home was a house from which the estate agents didn't believe that we could afford, because of my age, and they made me come in with a bank statement to prove that I could actually afford the house. So yeah, it's I think that's a good message to anybody, that if you really want something to change in terms of the pattern of your existing life or your day-to-day routine, then you just have to disrupt yourself, and you have to do that for a number of years. You have to say, look, sadly, the reality is, if I want to accelerate and grow this rapidly, then you have to put some things on the back burner. And this is something that, frankly, my wife backed me on, quite aggressively. Early on in the start of this, I said, look, neither me or you are going to inherit any money from our families, which is fine, but let's try, how do we break that pattern? And I think the only way that that's going to happen is there's an opportunity here, and this is after receiving my first customer. But I think it's going to take probably the next 4 to 5 years of my life to do that, and that's going to be 80% of my time. And she backed me all the way. So it's really incredible to go through that, have 2 children, get married, and grow the company to where it is. It's been a hell of an experience.
Yeah, I think it is so important, family. I'm lucky with my wife, Kim, and now we've got grandchildren urging us on. They're looking at their university fees in 15 years' time.
Well,
okay, listen. This year, sadly, in Bristol, there's not going to be pantomime, I don't think. So I'm going to be your fairy godmother and give you 3 wishes. If I gave you 3 wishes for digital marketing, what would they be?
That's a really tough one. So I would like to say that more people will take seriously search engine optimization as a channel, and understand that all because it's not transactional, in the sense that you put £1 in and you take £2 out straight away, but understand that it's a huge and probably the most important investment that anybody can make in their online presence.
It's a strategic investment. Yeah,
absolutely massive. So I would say that that's number 1. Number 2 would be the end of the mass-produced companies, and I'm name one, such as Yao, selling really underperforming marketing methods, and to have more focus on working with independent agencies across the country, who will provide the level of support to individual businesses that they are actually looking for, and not just be treated like a commodity to a large organization, which is often owned by a venture capitalist firm. And then number 3 is using the power from which is suddenly becoming apparent in our sector for more good causes. So as a business, we donate a hell of a lot of money to charity. We've worked with the Grand Appeal, and we've got a Wallace and Gromit statue. We've worked with children's hospitals. We replaced Christmas presents from which were stolen from the Santa's Grotto in Bristol. And we'll continue to do more of that. And I think as more people turn to online, it would be great if more agencies did more in their communities to support them.
Luke Sartain from UpUGo. I just knew when I came down to Bristol, I was not going to also experience a formidable SEO company, but also that you are very extremely transparent. You know where you're going. I love your social value input, and I thank you very much indeed today for this interview. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Malcolm. It's been a real pleasure.